Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live episode, and today we are continuing my kind of marathon review. You said you wanted them, so I'm going to keep them coming for as long as you want them. I'm going to be reviewing The Crown episode by episode. Of course, we're talking season 4. Now actually what I didn't do in previous seasons was I didn't actually do this. I didn't actually do a review week by week. I think we used to speak about it in my weekly talk show that I used to do, Talk of the Crown, but I didn't actually do a dedicated, review. So maybe, perhaps, once this series is finished and I've finished doing a review of all of them, maybe I could go back and start again from the very first season or series, whichever you want to call it. Maybe I could do them again. I don't know. But if you are enjoying these reviews, give them a thumbs up, like them, leave a comment, and all the rest of it. Right, as people are dropping in, this is a live chat, so I will be trying to read as many viewer comments and questions as I possibly can. I'll probably do that more towards the end of the video. Right, by the way, I've just realised I've left my glasses in the other room, so if I strain to read, you know why. Right, lots of people dropping in. So, episode 3, that's what I watched last night. Episode 3 is called Fairytale. Now, as I anticipated, Fairytale was, of course, with reference to the fairy tale wedding, the weddings of which fairy tales are made, of the union between Diana and Charles, and that amazing dress, which we'll talk about in a moment. So, I'm going to refer to my notes. No, actually, I'll do what I did yesterday. I'll read the official kind of synopsis of the episode, and then I'll refer to my own notes. So, I'm going to have to move this a bit closer so I can actually read it today. So, it was written by Peter Morgan, as are all of the episodes. And it says, Charles proposes to Diana, and she accepts. Diana moves from her London flatshare into the palace amid a media frenzy. She is tutored in the ways of the palace and suffers repeated episodes of an eating disorder. While Charles is abroad, she meets Camilla for lunch and realises that she hardly knows Charles at all, while Camilla knows every detail of their relationship. Distressed, she thinks of calling the marriage off. Meanwhile, Charles returns from his trip and sees Camilla before returning home. He tells Diana he had visited her to end their relationship. Margaret tells the Queen that the marriage will be a mistake, but Philip agrees that Charles will grow to love Diana. The Queen tells Charles to focus on his duty, and happiness will follow. The marriage goes ahead amid huge public celebrations. So, lots happened in this episode. Let's refer to my own notes. By the way, spoilers. If you don't want to know any spoilers, stop watching the video right now, watch the episode, and then come back and see if you agree with what I'm going to say. Right, so I've got in my notes that the Queen discusses with Charles. Basically, the Queen kind of sensed that Charles was unhappy and that he was having reservations with the marriage. Now, of course, in real life, we don't know if this conversation actually went ahead, but we do know, I think, that Philip and the Queen and all the other royals definitely saw this match, this union, as the best match at the time that could happen for Charles. But they realised that it wasn't a love match. They knew that Charles was in love still with Camilla, but Camilla was out of the picture. She was a married woman. This was, I think, in their eyes, the best union, the best match that was there and ready and available at the table, amongst all of the pressure that was being heaped on the royal family and indeed Charles to produce an heir to settle the matter of the succession. So the Queen had a conversation with Charles where she went in and basically she compared his relationship to that of his grandmother, Queen Mary, who of course went on to marry George V, and basically she was betrothed to George V's elder brother who died, but because she was seen as being such a really good match, she was then matched with the later George V, and of course the Queen basically in this episode said that they worked so hard together, and then eventually, that kind of seed of love was sowed, and eventually they began to love each other. And I think that's basically what the Queen was saying to Charles. Just work at it, and then that seed will develop and grow. Again, we don't know if that conversation is actually true or whether it actually happened. It's not a documented conversation, but it is a comparison that is true and that is real, because of course Queen Mary and George V were not a love match. They didn't, come to the marriage table having dated and been really in love with each other. It was a marriage of convenience, but love and dedication. I think a 40-something year marriage was spawned by that union. I think the royal family felt that could happen between Charles and Diana. So although that might not have happened in terms of the conversation, the theme is very, very much relevant. Then, of course, the proposal happens, and we see Charles, getting down. No, Charles didn't get down. Charles stood up. That was the whole point. He didn't feel like it was his rank to get down on her knee. So everyone kind of in the family teased him about that, which I thought was quite funny. But then we saw the famous recreation of the engagement interview. You know, the one where Diana and Charles were asked, are you in love? And Charles said, yes, whatever in love means. I think I can hear a cat at the door. I can hear a cat at my door. So I'm going to just go and open the door. Is there a cat that wants to come in? No? It's a Rory. It's Rory. So yeah, basically, whatever in love means, that famous conversation. And by the way, I think Emma Corrin completely nailed that interview. That, obviously, the interview did actually happen. There is archive footage, famous footage of that meeting. And Emma, I think, absolutely 100% nailed that interview entirely. So we kind of saw a really, really good recreation by that. We saw Diana being followed by the press as well, just before the engagement announcement. That was, again, another truthful, factual recreation of the scene. We saw Diana telling her friends that, kind of confirming that she was going to be the next Princess of Wales and Queen. And of course, they kind of joked with her and teased her about that. Then we saw the scene where, brought to life, where an array of rings was brought. Some belonging to the royal family, some new pieces by a jeweller. And we saw Diana kind of looking at these engagement rings, and the Queen was there. And we saw her kind of pick out a ruby ring to begin with, which of course was I think that was one of the royal family pieces. But then she kind of put that back and actually settled on, of course, the famous Ceylon sapphire. And when asked why she chose that one, she kind of said, because it matches my eyes and it reminds her of her mother's engagement ring. So that's kind of why she settled on that one. I thought that was a really nice kind of recreation. No, of course, no one knows, again, whether, it kind of happened exactly that way. But we do know, of course, that Diana was, offered a tray to choose from, some new pieces, some royal family pieces. And, of course, we know that she chose the famous Ceylon sapphire. I've spoken about the engagement interview. Then the next kind of scene was when Charles was going away on tour for 6 weeks. Again, kind of unfortunate timing, because they hadn't had a lot of time to get to know each other. That was one of the things, I think, that kind of gave Diana a little bit of doubt. So Charles kind of went off on tour. We saw a scene of Diana kind of, saying goodbye to him at the airport. And at that time, Diana was moved to a suite of rooms in the palace. And we saw Diana in these kind of enormous rooms, kind of almost being swamped, a very young Diana in these kind of really big, grand rooms, trying to make the best of being away from her future husband, but also being quite isolated from the family. Whenever she tried to get in contact with the Queen, she wasn't available. Of course, the family were off doing their own thing, so she was very much left to her own devices. She filled her time by engaging in her passion. We have an incoming cat. Hello, Rory. So don't show your bum to camera. So we kind of, you know, we saw her trying to make the best of her time by doing what she loved best: ballet, dancing, rollerblading through the palace. I mean, that was, you know, she was said to have done that as well. So I thought that was a really good kind of, you know, setting the scene for the kind of later isolation and loneliness that she was going to feel. And you're also hiding my notes, so I can't see. So whilst Charles was still away, Diana had lunch with Camilla. I think Charles had kind of recommended that Camilla would kind of, you know, be a good person to talk to and to kind of welcome her in. Camilla was happy to do so. Of course, Camilla, a married woman at the time. Camilla took Diana to this, you know, fancy restaurant, and they had lunch. And it now, again, we don't know that this actually happened in terms of that particular lunch, but we do know that Camilla and Diana did actually meet each other on a number of occasions where they would have had opportunity to speak. So in the Crown version of events, which of course we can't say is entirely accurate, but it kind of sets the scene. We saw that Diana kind of realised that she didn't really know a lot about her future husband. She didn't know, for example, that he didn't eat lunch because they hadn't really met each other over a lunchtime. She didn't know that he liked an egg with lots of his food. And she also realised that Camilla knew absolutely every detail of their relationship. In other words, Charles, you know, was basically confiding and telling Camilla everything. And of course, you know, Diana knew that she was an ex-girlfriend, so she found this a little bit strange and a little bit odd. So that kind of set seeds of doubt. At the same time, we saw the kind of the scenes of Diana's bulimia beginning. We saw her being very distressed. So she went down to the palace kitchens and she opened the fridge, and there was these array of desserts that had been prepared by the palace chef. She literally got a spoon and just ate and ate and ate and ate and ate. And of course, you know, anyone who knows anything about bulimia knows that you stuff and you gorge and then you purge everything up. So of course, we saw the binging and we saw the purging. She went straight upstairs, she felt disgusted with herself, and she purged. And that was kind of the start of the self-harm. Now, of course, we don't know at that particular point you know, what the trigger was, but I imagine the loneliness, the isolation that she was feeling, the doubts perhaps over Camilla, were all factors that may, and also the pressure of the kind of looming big day may have kind of contributed to that. We know that, you know, because of the dress fittings, the manuals revealed that that she had lost so much weight from when they first met her to when they were kind of making the final alterations. She'd lost quite a lot of weight in that time. One thing I would like to say about the Emmanuels, I would have loved, I mean, I understand that they are constrained by time, but I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of kind of Diana meeting the Emmanuels, discussing the wedding dress. I'd like to have seen a few scenes of the wedding dress being created. In fact, the first time we saw the wedding dress, it was kind of hanging up in Diana's bedroom in the palace, and so yeah, we didn't really see a lot of the kind of creation of the wedding dress. Incoming cat. Hello cat. What are you after? Right, you're hiding my notes, I can't see. Daddy can't see. Come here. Oh, there we go. Right. So I've spoken about Diana's love of ballet and dance. We saw that was really, really good. I've got written down lessons by Lady Fermoy. Of course, her grandmother. Diana's grandmother was a lady in waiting to the Queen. Where are you going? Rory, no. We don't want to see that, thank you. She was a lady in waiting to the Queen, and she was instructed to instruct Diana in the ways of the royal family, because she'd had a little bit of well, in the Crown at least, she'd had a bit of a disastrous kind of encounter with protocol. She was Princess Margaret was telling a story, she walked in and kind of got the order of who you curtsy to wrong and incorrect. Now, I will point out that we don't know if that's actually true or not, because, and this is where I think the Crown has taken a little bit of an artistic license, because Diana was brought up aristocratic, so she knew, and also she was kind of in close contact with the royal family. So she knew, I think, the order of who you curtsy and bow to. But I think, again, what the themes they are exploring is that it's somebody young, somebody new coming into the royal family and not perhaps understanding exactly what you're getting yourself into. And the fact that the royal family, did have these kind of internal protocols in place, which of course they do kind of bow and curtsy to each other, which lots of people would probably find incredibly strange. It's not normal. It's not how normal families operate. But that was the kind of world that Diana was put into. So yeah, I think the Crown probably took a little bit of an artistic license in that respect. But we do know that Diana did get some instruction in certain things, probably more, about how to behave in public and maybe some public speaking, that kind of thing. In The Crown, we saw Lady Fermoy kind of strap Diana's arms down so that she wouldn't kind of, make exuberant hand gestures. I think, wasn't it? Flapping around like a windmill or something, it was described as. Maybe I'm a bit guilty of that. Maybe I should, have my hands strapped down a little bit. So, Diana was instructed by her grandmother in matters of protocol and public speaking and all the rest of it. I've spoken about the lunch with Camilla. Also, it's when they kind of discussed about the nicknames, the kind of pet names that Charles and Camilla had for each other, which turned out to be Fred and Gladys. That's what they called each other. And Diana found this kind of bracelet. Now, the bracelet, I think they've actually borrowed this story from the honeymoon, because it was actually on honeymoon when Diana discovered this bracelet that was embroidered, that had written on it, I think it was F and G, Fred and Gladys. So I think they kind of switched things up a little bit, but it's still, in essence, it's the truth. But it was actually on the Royal Yacht Britannia on honeymoon that Diana found the bracelet that Charles had made for Camilla. No, or was it the other way around? Perhaps it was Camilla had something made for Charles. I forget. But anyway, I think what they've done is borrowed that story from there and kind of put it into that kind of place. So when Charles came back from tour, he actually kind of didn't tell Diana the truth. He told her, in the Crown version, he told her that he was coming back a day later, which effectively gave him time to go back to Highgrove to see Camilla, which he later then told Diana was because he was trying to end the relationship. In truth, we think, obviously, he kind of rendezvoused with Camilla. But he'd had a ring made up for Diana, a present, that had the Prince of Wales's feathers on it, which, of course, he said that was because she was going to be the new Princess of Wales, and that he'd finished it and he'd ended it with Camilla. But again, Diana still had some doubts in her mind, I guess. Then we saw the scene with all of the wedding rehearsals. We saw Diana with a kind of mock-up of that big, massive train, which she wore as part of her wedding dress, which was actually detachable. Speaking about the wedding dress, the Emanuels were actually consulted by the Crown in the recreation of the dress. So it is as authentic as it is going to be. I think they even bought the kind of, the silk and the taffeta and everything from similar sources. So it is very, very much a faithful recreation. They consulted the Emanuels on that. We saw the walk up the St. Paul's steps, and of course I made a video recreating Diana's steps when I went to London, so if you haven't seen that, go and check that out. And that's where the episode ended. Because I haven't watched episode 4 yet, I don't know whether it shows the actual wedding ceremony or whether it just kind of ends there. I don't know. But anyway, that was kind of the episode. I'm going to go back and read a few comments in case, if I've missed anything of the episode you think you want me to talk about, let me know. I will try and read it. Amber Gordon says, I was disappointed that Princess Anne's marriage, kidnapping attempt, and Olympic competition wasn't even covered. I'll get to that in a moment. That's on my list to talk about. Lauren says, I've started watching from series 1 again. Like to remember the previous episodes. Bev says, I've read that they also bonded over their mutual loss of Albert Victor even before their marriage, Mary and George. Yeah. Sparky says, Margaret's reaction to that was hilarious. Yes, I loved Margaret's reaction. Again, we don't know if that actually happened, but it was very, in keeping with Margaret's character. Lots of people saying hello to Rory. I think he wants biscuits. He wants feeding. Lady Bungham says, I must have fallen asleep. I don't remember the wedding dress part. And I went on to the next episodes and I wondered why they didn't show the wedding dress. And Lauren says, I loved Princess Diana's wedding dress. I think it was, I forgot how long. I think, was it 25-foot train? Something of that nature. Right. So one of the things that I've got written down is I would have liked to have seen more of the Emmanuels designing the dress. We didn't get to see that. Also, up until now, up until episode 3, where I've watched, there has been no Edward and there has been no Andrew. Now, I don't think it's because of necessarily the Andrew situation at the moment, because of course, why would you just keep him out of it? Because, all of those troubles hadn't happened at that time. So we've seen no Edward, we've seen no Andrew, especially as Andrew was involved with the wedding and all the rest of it. So I find it a bit weird that we haven't seen Andrew or Edward. Maybe we will in future episodes coming up. I don't know. I haven't watched it. But yeah, I would like to have seen some of Edward and Andrew in this series. Also, Princess Anne would have been pregnant just before the wedding ceremony with Zara, who was born in May of 1981. So we didn't see the kind of pregnancy with Princess Anne. Also, there has been to date a few private secretary inaccuracies. Some would have been long gone, but they're still being kind of name checked in terms of private secretaries. So there's a few inaccuracies there. I would have liked to have seen Princess Anne's wedding. I would have liked to have seen the kidnap attempt along the mall of Princess Anne. But I think what they've basically done is skipped a whole load of years to get to the kind of, late 70s, covering the Diana era, basically. So they skipped a little bit in the middle. It perhaps would have been a little bit difficult to kind of story arc it and kind of get those, although very interesting points, I can see it would have been a little bit difficult to kind of make it fit into a series. Maybe they should have added those bits onto the end of season 3. Maybe they could have had an extra episode and kind of fitted those in there. Maybe that would have been good. I don't know. But I felt like I wanted to see those and we haven't got to see them. So I don't think I'm going to get my wish. I don't think they're going to go back and cover that. Also, I had a little thought. I heard rumours that I think they are going to go ahead and do a series 5, I think, was what I heard. And was it 6? Was it 5 or 6? I can't remember. Anyway, I think they've extended it by an extra series. The creator, I think, has said that he wants to keep at least 20 years of distance. So I don't think we're going to see them kind of recreating the sort of William and Catherine, Harry, Meghan kind of era. Obviously, with it being 2020, 20 years in the past takes us up to the turn of the millennium, which would be a fairly good point to kind of leave it. But I think seeing as we're now kind of in the Diana, Charles, Camilla kind of triangle era, I think a really good final cut-off point would actually be 2005, would actually be the wedding of Charles and Camilla, because it shows the kind of full story arc of that cycle, of that love triangle, and sets us up for what the future of the monarchy is going to be. So I would like to see, I think, the last series of The Crown going up to 2005. For me, that's a kind of natural cut-off point. But let me know what you think. Right, I'm going to read some comments. Mrs. Pilling says, Princess Anne's story is too far away from The Crown to be featured. I don't think it's the fact it's too far away. I think it was the fact that it just didn't fit in terms of timescales with what they were trying to do. I think that's more of it. But I would like to have seen it, is more my point. Christine says, I don't know anything about Diana's grandmother, but found out she was a lady-in-waiting to the Queen Mother. Yes, she was. Lauren Walk says, I wonder if they would like to go back and forth on years as a series process, so we get to hear about things we have not so far. I don't know. They may. I mean, maybe they could do it in a flashback. Maybe they could have Princess Anne talking about, you know, her experience, and they could do it in a flashback. Maybe I could see them doing it that way. Lawrence. Oh, I've read that one. Tammy would also like to have seen Princess Anne's kidnapping attempt. It would have been also funny as well. Frightening but funny, because Princess Anne's reaction to it was just typically Princess Anne. Christine says, yes, there will be a season 5. And yes, they have cast Imelda Staunton as Queen Elizabeth and Jonathan Pryce as Prince Philip. Seaside Mum says, the whole series is fiction and just a bit of fun to watch, not to be taken seriously. Yeah, and where they don't know you know, all of the details, they've picked themes or things that we kind of know to be true. I would probably say, you know, 65 to 75% of it is kind of accurate. But there is some artistic license taking place there. Yeah, I think Imelda Staunton will play a really good queen. Mrs. Pilling says, the other siblings are too far removed from the crown. I've seen interviews with the producers who said they have to stick to characters close to the Queen in terms of succession. I mean, Anne, you know, Anne is you know, you could argue is removed in terms of succession, but anyway, I would just like to have seen them there as incidentals. They wouldn't have had to necessarily follow a story arc with them, but I'd like to have seen them as just, you know, incidentally there. What do ladies in waiting do? Well, they support the Queen on official engagements. Sometimes you'll see a lady in waiting in the car with the Queen if she's on her own, or you'll see them at the events. She's usually the lady with a nice hat who the Queen hands the bouquets of flowers to. They work in kind of the palace like offices, answering correspondence for the Queen. They are there for companions, for companionship as well. So that's kind of some of the duties of which they do. They're usually of kind of noble birth, of aristocratic breeding, and they have been for years people who the Queen has known for a very, very long time. Do we know if the royal family watches it? Well, we don't. We don't know for sure if they watch it. But I imagine, I mean, if it was me, I would probably want to watch something about me. But then again, you know, this particular series, I mean, for William and Harry, if they were to be watching it, this would be hard. I mean, anything kind of up to now, I think they could probably stomach. But I mean, for William and Harry, and Charles as well, probably all of them. I think this season 4 is going to be the hardest, the most difficult, if you were a member of the family, to watch, because it's dealing with a very difficult period in time. It's dealing with very complex kind of issues and matters of the heart and pressures being faced. You know, it's tough. It's tough to watch. If you were William and Harry, it would be tough to watch your mother going through the Bulimia episodes. Yeah, it would just be incredibly, incredibly tough to watch, I think. Have I finished the whole series? No, not yet. I am only on episode 3. I'll be watching episode 4 tonight. Right, I think I'm probably going to go now. I want to kind of keep these videos fairly succinct. I think I've spoken about all of the kind of themes explored in this episode. So, of course, this was episode 3, Fairytale from series 4 of Netflix's The Crown. Do let me know if you're watching on catch up, if you have any comments or questions or anything about it. And of course, let me know if you want to see the next one tomorrow. Do you want to see episode 4? I'll just read what episode 4 is roughly about. It's called Favourites. So I'm not going to read too much into it, but it's called Favourites. So I'll be looking forward to watching that tonight. Right, let's just... Okay, thank you, Bethan, who says great review. You are more than welcome. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media. And also do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. Also, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. So from me in Shropshire, mwah to you all, and goodbye.